She was already halfway out the door when it happened. The music behind her swelled into another loud chorus of laughter. Glasses clinked in celebration of something no one would remember tomorrow, and the air felt thick with perfume and forced enthusiasm. She had done what was expected. She had smiled when introduced, nodded at conversations she wasn't really listening to, laughed at jokes that weren't that funny. Her social battery had drained quietly, politely, the way it always did. So she slipped her heels off under the tall cocktail table, holding them in one hand as she moved toward the exit, ready to trade noise for night air. She didn't plan on staying another minute. Her fingers brushed the cool metal of the door handle. Freedom was right there. The quiet parking lot, the comfort of her car, the relief of not having to perform anymore. That was when she heard it. It wasn't loud. In fact, it was so subtle that she almost convinced herself she imagined it. A faint, uneven sound that didn't belong in a room filled with polished laughter and upbeat playlists. It came from down the hallway, near the restrooms. She paused. It wasn't curiosity that stopped her. She wasn't the type to chase drama, and it wasn't fear either. It was something else. Something deeper and instinctive. The kind of awareness women carry like a second heartbeat. The ability to sense when something isn't right, even when no one else notices. The sound came again, softer this time. Fragile. She turned slightly. Just enough to listen without looking obvious. Two coworkers brushed past her, still laughing about office gossip, completely unaware. The world continued spinning as if nothing had shifted. But inside her, something had. Maybe it was the tone of it. Not anger. Not frustration. It sounded like someone trying very hard not to be heard. A muffled inhale, a stifled break in breathing. The kind of sound that only escapes when someone thinks they're alone. Her hand loosened from the door handle. For a split second, she argued with herself. It's not your business. Someone else will check. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just a phone call. But the truth was, she knew the difference between a private conversation and a private unraveling. She had made that same sound once, in another bathroom. On another night, leaning over a sink, gripping porcelain while mascara ran in thin black rivers. She remembered the humiliation of needing a moment and the desperate hope that no one would notice. She remembered wishing someone would knock, not loudly, not publicly, just gently enough to say, "I see you." That memory settled in her chest now, warm and heavy. The hallway felt longer than it had earlier. The music grew muffled as she stepped away from the crowd. Each step felt deliberate, quiet against the polished floor. The fluorescent light near the restroom flickered faintly, casting a pale glow over the doorway. The strange sound came again, followed by silence. She stopped outside the bathroom door. Her heart wasn't racing. It wasn't dramatic. It was steady, thoughtful. She wasn't bracing for scandal or secrets. She wasn't expecting anything shocking. What she felt instead was empathy rising like a tide she couldn't ignore. There's something sacred about catching a moment that wasn't meant for you. It's easy to walk away. It's easy to protect your own comfort. She could still leave. No one would question it. No one even knew she had paused. But sometimes, the smallest decisions carry the most weight. The choice to step closer instead of away. The choice to acknowledge a crack in someone's composure. Another muffled sound. This time, unmistakable. A breath that trembled at the edges. She exhaled slowly, grounding herself. She wasn't there to fix anything. She didn't have solutions tucked into her clutch. She didn't have perfect words prepared. All she had was presence, and sometimes, presence is enough. She lifted her hand and hovered it near the door, hesitating just long enough to consider boundaries. There's a fine line between intrusion and care. She didn't want to cross it carelessly, but silence can feel heavier than interruption. Her knuckles touched the door softly. Not a pounding knock. Not urgent. Just a gentle tap. The kind that says, "I'm here if you need me." The sounds inside stopped instantly. For a moment, there was nothing but the hum of the fluorescent light and the distant echo of party music. She almost retreated, wondering if she had misread everything. But then she heard movement. A quiet rustle. A sharp inhale, like someone wiping their face quickly. trying to stitch themselves back together. She recognized that too. It takes courage to be seen when you're falling apart, and it takes courage to witness it. She didn't speak immediately. She didn't demand answers. She simply stood there, calm and patient, offering space without pressure. The door remained closed, but the distance between strangers had already shifted. In a room full of noise and polished personas, something real was happening behind a thin wooden barrier, and she chose not to walk away. The sound wasn't loud enough to compete with the music drifting down the hallway. It didn't crash or shatter or demand attention. It didn't carry the sharp edge of anger or the urgency of an emergency. It was small, almost fragile, the kind of sound that could disappear if you weren't paying attention. And maybe that's why it unsettled her so deeply, because it didn't belong. Inside the main room, everything was bright and inflated. Laughter rose in exaggerated bursts. Someone cheered over a joke that had been told 3 times already. Glasses clinked again and again, each toast blending into the next. The atmosphere was polished, curated, safe. People stood a little straighter, smiled a little wider, spoke a little louder than they would on an ordinary Tuesday morning at their desks. But this sound was none of that. It was raw. She tilted her head slightly, just enough to make sure she wasn't imagining it. There it was again, faint, uneven, almost swallowed by the hum of fluorescent lights and the bass thudding faintly through the walls. It sounded like someone trying not to cry, not the dramatic sobs you see in movies, but the restrained kind, the kind pressed into a palm, the kind buried in fabric, the kind that leaks out in spite of effort. It didn't match the scene. There's something disorienting about hearing vulnerability in a place designed for performance. Work parties are built on masks, on small talk, on carefully measured laughter and harmless anecdotes. They're arenas of impression management where colleagues transform into charming, effortless versions of themselves for a few hours. But that sound cut through the illusion. It was human. She felt it in her chest before she fully processed it. A tightening, a recognition, not because she knew who was inside, but because she knew that sound. Everyone who has ever tried to hold themselves together in public knows it. The tremor in a breath, the shaky inhale that refuses to stabilize, the quiet attempt to regain control. It was the sound of someone unraveling quietly, privately in a place where unraveling wasn't allowed. 2 coworkers brushed past her in the hallway. Still mid-conversation, their laughter spilling freely. They didn't hear it. Or maybe they did, but filtered it out. The brain is good at protecting comfort. It chooses the louder, safer explanation. It assumes everything is fine because it's easier that way. But she couldn't unhear it. It came again, softer, more broken this time, followed by silence so sudden it felt intentional, as if whoever was inside realized they had let too much slip into the air. The contrast struck her hardest. Inside the party room, glittering smiles, loud jokes, confident body language. Inside the bathroom, a sound stripped of all performance. The bathroom is always where truth hides. Mirrors that witness mascara streaks, sinks that hold on to whispered self-pep talks, locked doors that guard moments no one wants seen. It's where people go to breathe when they can't breathe in front of others, where composure is temporarily set down like a heavy coat. And tonight, someone had carried too much. The sound didn't ask for attention. It didn't demand rescue. It was simply there existing in quiet opposition to the celebration outside. That's what made it powerful. It wasn't dramatic enough to justify a scene, but it was too real to ignore. She wondered what had cracked. Was it something said casually at the party? A joke that landed too close to a truth? A compliment that felt hollow? Or was it something completely unrelated? A text message received mid-conversation, a call missed, a memory triggered by nothing at all. Heartbreak and exhaustion don't schedule themselves conveniently. They don't wait until you're home and alone. They arrive when they want to. Even under string lights. Even beside catering trays and office chatter. Another faint sound slipped through the door this time. A shaky exhale. It carried more weight than any laugh from the party. It was stripped of pretense. Honest in a way that felt almost sacred. She felt the shift in herself. The party behind her began to feel distant, shallow. Not because it was wrong, but because it was incomplete. It showed only one side of everyone. The polished side, the capable side, the competent, put-together version. But this sound revealed the other side. The side that gets tired, the side that breaks. The side that can't hold the mask any longer. There's something deeply unsettling about realizing how little we truly see of one another. She had been standing in a room full of colleagues for over an hour. People she emailed daily, people she shared projects with, people whose work styles she could describe in detail. And yet, one of them just a few steps away was crumbling behind a locked door. The sound didn't belong because vulnerability doesn't fit into professional settings. It's edited out, smoothed over, hidden behind professionalism and polite detachment. But it exists anyway. It waits in quiet corners. The music from the party swelled again, as if trying to reclaim dominance over the hallway. A burst of applause erupted from inside the main room. Someone must have started a speech. The contrast sharpened even more. Applause on one side, a trembling breath on the other. It felt like standing between two realities. One loud and visible, one soft and hidden. She realized then that the sound felt out of place not because it was wrong but because it was honest. It exposed the fragile truth beneath the curated surface of everything happening tonight. And honesty, especially the quiet kind, often feels disruptive in spaces built on composure. The hallway seemed smaller now, the air heavier, the music less joyful. She found herself listening not just with her ears, but with something deeper, a sensitivity shaped by her own private moments of holding it together until she couldn't. The sound came once more. And this time, it wasn't just noise. It was a reminder that behind every polite smile, every confident handshake, there's a complex, fragile human being doing their best. A reminder that the most important moments are often the quietest ones. And maybe the most profound act of connection isn't joining the loud celebration, but simply standing in the quiet hallway, acknowledging the silent struggle you can't see, and sending a silent wish for peace to the person on the other side of the door. It's okay to not be okay. If you're struggling, please know that there are people who want to help. You can find resources for mental health support in the description below. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourselves and each other. When she first heard the sound, her mind had flickered through the usual possibilities. Skanda. An argument whispered too fiercely, something inappropriate, something dramatic, something that would explain the tension she suddenly felt in her chest. Work parties have a way of creating those stories, blurred boundaries, loosened conversations, secrets exposed under dim lighting. For a second, she wondered if she was about to stumble into something messy, but when the door opened just a few inches, what she saw wasn't scandal. It wasn't betrayal. It was a woman gripping the edge of the sink like it was the only solid thing in the room. Mascara had traced faint, uneven lines down her cheeks. Not heavy streaks, just thin evidence of something she had tried to stop before it fully surfaced. Her lipstick had faded at the edges, and her reflection in the mirror behind her looked like someone caught between two versions of herself. The composed professional who had been smiling minutes ago, and the exhausted human who couldn't hold the mask any longer. Their eyes met. There was no shock in them, no anger at being discovered, just that split second of panic, the instinctive flinch of someone who has been seen too soon. Her hand moved quickly, swiping at her cheek as if erasing proof. "I'm fine," she started to say automatically, the phrase already forming out of habit. But her voice betrayed her. It cracked on the second word. The small bathroom felt different now, not like a hiding place, but like a quiet confessional. The fluorescent light above the mirror hummed softly, illuminating details. No one else at the party would notice the slight tremble in her fingers, the shallow rise and fall of her chest, the way her shoulders were tense as if bracing for impact. It wasn't drama, it was collapse. Not the loud kind that demands attention, the quiet kind that happens when you've been strung for too long. She stepped inside gently, letting the door close behind her without clicking fully shut, not sealing it, not trapping the moment, just creating space away from the noise outside. The music from the party thudded faintly through the walls, absurdly cheerful against the fragile stillness in the room. "I just needed a minute," the woman said, staring at the sink instead of at her. Of course she did. That was the thing about breaking down in bathrooms. No one goes there for a spectacle. They go Because it's the only place where the Mierdos and T judge you for falling apart. The only place where you can breathe loudly without applause interrupting. Up close, she noticed how carefully the woman had prepared herself earlier. The effort was visible. The perfectly styled hair now, slightly loosened near the temples. The elegant blouse, chosen deliberately. The subtle jewelry. All the small details meant to project competence, confidence, control. And yet here she was, undone by something invisible. What happened? She asked softly, not because she needed the full story, but because sometimes the question itself is permission. The woman hesitated. Her jaw tightened. For a moment it looked like she might retreat again into performance mode, but something in the quiet of the room felt safe enough to let honesty slip through. It's stupid, she whispered. It never is. She shook her head slightly, as if dismissing her own pain before anyone else could. I can't keep pretending everything's okay. There it was. Not scandal, not betrayal, just exhaustion. The kind that builds slowly over weeks or months. Deadlines stacking. Expectations rising. Personal struggles tucked neatly into the corners of busy schedules. Smiles rehearsed in car mirrors before stepping into offices. Conversations navigated carefully so no one asks the wrong question. Tonight, something had tipped the balance. Maybe it was a comment about performance. Maybe it was seeing everyone laugh so easily when she felt like she was barely holding herself together. Maybe it was something completely unrelated. A sick parent, a fading relationship, a private disappointment no one at work knew about. Pain doesn't always announce its source, but it announces itself. The woman exhaled shakily, pressing her palms against the counter. I didn't want anyone to see me like this. That sentence carried more weight than tears, because like this meant vulnerable, unpolished, imperfect. Human, in a space where humans are expected to operate like well-oiled machines. She moved a little closer, careful not to invade, but close enough to close the emotional distance. You don't have to pretend in here, she said quietly. The woman's shoulders dropped. Just slightly, a tiny surrender. And in that small shift, the atmosphere changed. The tightness in the air, soft. The silence between them became supportive instead of awkward. Tears welled again. But this time they weren't fought so aggressively. They slipped down slowly, honestly. No dramatic sobbing, no theatrics, just release. The party continued outside. Laughter, music, applause. But inside this small room, something far more real was happening. She realized then how often we misread strength. We assume strength is composure. Perfect makeup, steady voices, delivering presentations flawlessly. But strength is also walking into a party when you're already exhausted. It's showing up, even when your heart is heavy. It's holding everything together until your body insists on a pause. This wasn't weakness. It was the cost of being strong for too long. She reached for a paper towel, handing it over without comment. No grand speeches. No dramatic reassurances. Just quiet solidarity. The kind that says you are not embarrassing. You are not inconvenient. You are not alone in this moment. The woman gave a small, fragile laugh through tears. I must look ridiculous. She shook her head gently. No, she thought, you look real. And real is something the party outside could never quite replicate. Have you ever felt so overwhelmed that you just couldn't speak? You're sitting there, the world spinning around you, and all you want is for someone to just be there. No advice, no platitudes, just quiet, unwavering presence. Today, I want to talk about the incredible power of silent support, a form of comfort that speaks volumes without saying a single word. I remember a time when I was going through something incredibly tough. A close friend came over. I was expecting a barrage of questions, a list of things I should do, but instead, they just sat with me. They made Tia put on a quiet movie and just existed in the same space as my pain. There was no pressure to talk, no need to explain the tangled mess of emotions I was feeling. And in that silence, I felt more seen and understood than I had in weeks. That quiet companionship was a lifeline. It told me, you're not alone in this, and you don't have to perform or pretend. It's okay to just be. This is something we often forget in our fast-paced, problem-solving world. When someone we care about is hurting, our first instinct is to fix it. We want to offer solutions, share our own experiences, and say all the right things. We think silence is awkward, that it means we're not doing enough. But sometimes, the most compassionate thing we can do is to simply hold space for another person's feelings. Think about it. When you're truly struggling, do you always have the words to describe what's happening inside? Often, the pain is too big, too messy, or too raw to be put into neat sentences. Trying to articulate it can feel like another exhausting task. When someone sits with you in silence, they're giving you permission to not have the answers. They are trusting you to process in your own time, on your own terms. It's a profound act of respect for your journey. This isn't about ignoring the problem. It's about recognizing that presence is a powerful tool in itself. It's a nonverbal way of saying, I'm here with you. I see your struggle, and I'm not scared of it. I'm not going to run away from your sadness or your anger. This creates a safe container for emotions to surface and be felt without judgment. In that shared quiet, we can often find the strength to navigate our own storms. There's a subtle energy exchange that happens in shared silence. It's a deep, human connection that transcends language. It's the comfort of a hand on your shoulder, a shared glance that says, I get it, or simply the rhythmic sound of two people breathing in the same room. It's a reminder that we are part of a community, that we are tethered to others, even when we feel most adrift. So, how can we become better at offering this kind of silent support? First, we need to get comfortable with our own discomfort. Silence can feel awkward, and we might feel an urge to fill it. Resist that urge. Take a deep breath and remind yourself that your presence is the gift. Your job isn't to fix, but to witness. Second, pay attention to nonverbal cues. Your body language can communicate everything. Are you turned towards the person? Is your posture open and relaxed? A gentle, supportive presence is far more comforting than a tense, anxious one. Put your phone away. Be fully present in that moment with them. This shows that they are your priority. Third, offer small, practical acts of care that don't require conversation. Making a cup of tea, fluffing a pillow, grabbing a blanket, or even just doing the dishes. These simple actions say, I care for you in a tangible way, removing burdens without needing a single word of discussion. They anchor the person in the physical world when their mind might be lost in turmoil. And if you are the one who needs support, don't be afraid to ask for it in this way. It can feel vulnerable, but saying something like, could you just sit with me for a little while? I don't really feel like talking is a powerful act of self-advocacy. It gives your loved ones clear direction on how to help you best. Sometimes, we need to teach people how to support us. It's also important to recognize when silence isn't enough. If you or someone you know is in crisis or struggling with their mental health, reaching out for professional help is a crucial step. Silent support is a beautiful form of connection, but it's not a substitute for therapy or medical advice. There are resources available, like crisis hotlines and mental health professionals, who are trained to provide the specific help needed. Seeking that help is a sign of immense strength. Let's reevaluate our definition of support. It's not always about grand gestures or perfect speeches. More often than not, it's about the quiet, steady, and unassuming act of just being there. It's about creating a sanctuary of silence where someone can feel safe enough to fall apart, knowing they won't be judged, rushed, or abandoned. Next time someone you love is hurting, try offering them the gift of your quiet presence. You might be surprised at how loud and clear your support is heard. And in doing so, you not only help them, but you also deepen your own capacity for empathy and connection. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If this message resonated with you, I'd love to hear your own stories about the power of silent support in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more conversations about connecting on a deeper level. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. The noise of the party was a physical thing, a wall of sound pressing in from all sides. Laughter, clinking glasses, and a thumping bass line that vibrated through the floorboards. I was supposed to be enjoying myself, but the smile on my face felt like a mask, brittle and ready to crack. Each forced conversation, each polite nod, chipped away at my energy until I felt hollowed out. I just wanted to disappear, to find a quiet corner where I could breathe. My escape route led me to a narrow hallway, away from the pulsing heart of the living room. And there she was, sitting on the bottom step of a staircase, her head buried in her hands. Her shoulders were shaking, a silent tremor in the chaos. For a moment, I hesitated. A stranger's sorrow is a private country, and I wasn't sure I had the right to enter. But the sight of her, so completely alone in a house full of people, pulled at something inside me. It was a reflection of how I felt isolated in a crowd. I walked over and sat down on the step next to her, leaving a small, respectful space between us. I didn't say anything at first. Words felt clumsy, inadequate. Instead, I just sat there, a quiet presence. After a minute that felt like an hour, she slowly lifted her head. Her eyes were re-dimmed, her mascara smudged into delicate, dark rivers down her cheeks. She looked at me, a flicker of surprise in her gaze. "Are you okay?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper, afraid a normal tone would shatter the fragile stillness around us. She shook her head, a tear finally escaping and tracing a path through her makeup. "No," she managed to say, her voice thick with unshed emotion. "I'm really not." I didn't press for details. I didn't need them. The reason for her pain didn't matter as much as the pain itself. He just nodded, a simple acknowledgement that I heard her, that I saw her. "I get it," I said softly. "Parties can be a lot." It was a massive understatement, but it seemed to be the right thing to say. A small, watery smile touched her lips. "Yeah," she whispered. "A lot." We sat in silence for a few more moments, the party's roar a distant, muffled beast. In that quiet hallway, we were an island. I felt a strange sense of calm settle over me. By offering a sliver of comfort, I had somehow found a piece of it for myself. My own anxieties, the feeling of being an outsider, seemed to shrink in the face of her genuine distress. It was a reminder that we're all just trying to navigate our own private storms, even when we're pretending to have fun. "Do you want to get out of here?" The question tumbled out of me before I could even think about it. Her head snapped up, her eyes wide with a mix of shock and something that looked a lot like relief. She looked back towards the noise. "Tin bike at me." She bit her lip, hesitating for only a second before giving a firm nod. "Yes," she said, her voice a little stronger this time. "I really do." We didn't say goodbye to anyone. We didn't grab our coats. We just stood up, to strangers united by a shared need for escape, and walked towards the front door, pushing it open. The cool night air was a welcome shock, clearing my head instantly. The street was quiet, bathed in the soft, orange glow of the streetlights. The party's noise faded behind us, until it was just a faint, rhythmic pulse. We started walking, with no destination in mind. We didn't talk much at first, just let the comfortable silence stretch between us. The simple act of walking, of moving away from the place that had caused us both so much discomfort, was therapeutic. Then, she started to talk. She told me about a fight with her boyfriend, about feeling misunderstood and alone. I listened, really listened, not thinking about what to say next, just absorbing her words. When she finished, I told her why I've been feeling so overwhelmed, about the pressure to be constantly on and sociable when I'm naturally an introvert. She nodded, and I could tell she understood. We found a late-night diner, its windows glowing like a beacon of warmth. Inside, over greasy fries and lukewarm coffee, we talked for hours. We talked about everything and nothing. Our dreams, our fears, our favorite silly movies. What started as an escape from a party turned into something so much more. It was a discovery of a genuine connection in the most unexpected of places. It was a powerful lesson that sometimes the most meaningful moments happen when we step away from the noise and just listen. That night, I didn't just find a way out of a party. I found a friend, and it reminded me that a little bit of empathy, a shared moment of vulnerability, can be the most beautiful bridge between two lonely souls. Thanks for watching.